Welcome to the Social Propertypreneur podcast. And here is your host, social media queen, property investor, and entrepreneur, Laura Muse.
Hi everybody, Laura Muse here, and I've got a very special guest this evening. So this is the Social Propertypreneur podcast live. So I'm going to be doing one of these very regular over the next month. So welcome to the podcast. Obviously, this is a live, but you will obviously listen after. So today, I'm very lucky. I've got a very inspirational lady who is a property investor, a chartered surveyor, a mindset advocate, an award-winning lecturer, and she also runs NC Real Estate, her firm of surveyors, which also includes a members club for landlords and property investors. So if that wasn't enough, she manages all this from the other side of the Atlantic in New York City. And I'm overwhelmed to introduce Natasha Collins. Yeah!
Laura, that was like one of the best introductions ever.
That was a mouthful.
I'm recording it. I'm going to just keep replaying that over and over again. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. That was amazing. No, thanks so much. Obviously, I know we've got a bit of a time difference, so I really do appreciate you taking some time.
My pleasure.
But yeah, let's just crack on. Let's talk about you, where you've been, what you've done, what's led you to be in New York. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So I have been in the property industry for the past 11 years. Seems like ages. I started off back in 2009 as a letting agent assistant. The only reason that I did that was because in my second year of university, I had literally got to the end of my overdraft and was like, I need a job for the third year of my university because I could not afford to survive anymore, right? So I negotiated with the lecturing staff at the University of Worcester that I would have all of my lectures on a Monday, and for the rest of the week I would then go out and find myself a pretty much full-time job. And from that I fell into working as an admin assistant at a letting agent, which very quickly turned into just doing everything: lettings, tenancies, helping out. And the deal was I managed the office in the morning, so I would do like 9 to 1, doing all of the admin for this letting agent and organizing viewings and what have you. Then in the afternoon I was allowed to just man the phone. So from then I'd have my lunch break, then from about 2 till 6 I could man the phone, and my boss would let me do my coursework, which was fantastic, as long as in the evening I went out and did the viewing. So then I would do the late night viewings as well. So it was long days, but I was getting paid a full-time salary to do my university degree as well. Thank gosh. So I got myself out of debt. During that time, a chap came into the office who needed to rent a property because it was massive snows that year and his roof had come in. Couldn't find him a property. He asked me instead if I'd like to babysit for his children.
Wow.
Cash strapped Natasha Collins is like, yes. I'm in. Yeah, where do I sign up? Went and did a couple of babysitting for him and his wife, and we got on like a house on fire. And he's like, Natasha, what are you doing after university? And by that point, we were coming out the recession. I'd been applying for everything, graduate jobs, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And he said to me, Natasha, do you want to become a surveyor? I was like, sure. What on earth is a surveyor? So he said, go away. The next time you see me, come back armed with questions about surveyors. He said, I'm a commercial surveyor. Go and find out what that is and let me know if that's of interest to you. 2 weeks later, I come back and I'm like, sure, tell me about being a commercial surveyor. I had no other options at that time. And he was talking to me about it. And he said, look, one of my friends in London is looking for a new graduate surveyor. I think you'd be really good because you're down to earth. You've got common sense. You've got a bit of a property background. Do you want to go for the interview? Sure, I've got nothing to lose at this point. Went for the interview. the guy was like, okay, Natasha, I haven't got a position for you until September. I was like, perfect. I am going to go traveling then for a couple of months. I'd saved up money. I'm off to America. So I'd gone to America, and he had emailed me and said, hey, Natasha, love to have you start in September. I've also got a flat that you can rent off of me for £500 per month. I was like, I am in. That was where my surveying journey started. I had no idea how hard it was going to be. I got chucked in at the deep end. Within 3 months, the guy who was head of property management at the time had left. Rather than hiring someone else, they're like, Natasha, do you want to take over the head of property management position?
Oh, wow.
Southwest London portfolio. 21-year-old me was like, sure, I can handle it. And that was where property management started. I quickly built to being an asset manager. I was the head of commercial property for the Sloane Stanley estate for 2 years. I was doing the property management for an NHS portfolio. I was running lease advisory for some of the other big portfolios in the area, and just had my fingers in so many different pies, as well as because I then was like, well, I have to become a surveyor because of this. I did not have the appropriate degree to become a surveyor. I had a geography and computing undergraduate degree, so I had to go and do my master's at the same time.
Oh my God.
As a conversion. So I was literally, during the day, property manager for this huge fund, then studying in the evenings for my master's, and then doing all of the training alongside for my APC. It was wild. But that was kind of my induction into the property industry. And I learned a huge amount. Number one, in having to keep myself organized, because my gosh, if I think about it now, it even blows my mind how much I would have to do for all of these different property portfolios. But I would do it because every single morning I would come in, I would look at what I had on for the day, which contractors were going out to which property, were all of my tenants happy, had there been anything going on overnight. I had an out of hours call handling service, which all of you, I cannot stress it enough. If you guys decide that, and I'm not on commission for this, but you who run all of the out of office for the big landlords in London, also do it for the small landlords across the country, and it like literally cost about £10 per property per quarter to run them on an out of hours system overnight. And if I wouldn't have had them, my gosh, my phone would be ringing off the hook overnight. So I'd had to put in place all of these systems just to cope with the level of like email traffic and maintenance inquiries. And we're looking at service charges for commercial, residential, because all of my residential was above commercial. Residential tenants would get seemingly wound up by the commercial tenants and vice versa. So you would have to be settling those disputes, as well as looking at what your clients wanted to achieve long term. So it was hectic, but
you fully survived.
I survived. Very quickly had to learn how to put processes into one place for this. But because of doing that as well, one of my big clients took me aside one day. He's like, Natasha, you run all of these portfolios for everybody else. Why on earth are you not doing it for yourself? And I was like, really? He said, yeah, honestly, I don't understand why you haven't bought your own property. And that back in 2011, only after doing that for 18 months, I was like, right, okay, fine. I'm going to start investing in my own property portfolio. Don't know how I'm going to do it, but whatever. I'm going to buy a property. Yes. Didn't have any money. But I was like, well, if all these people can do it, I can do it too. Ended up putting together a bit of a business plan and convincing my parents that they needed to remortgage their property and give me 50 grand, which just, looking back on it, even my parents now say, we have no idea how you managed to convince us to do that, because it wasn't as if it was something that they could afford to do. But with that 50 grand, I took it and I bought myself a flat in Notting Hill, because it was £200,000. I had completely negotiated my ass off, just like this 22-year-old with nothing to lose. You know, if I didn't get it, it's not the end of the world. I'm young. None of my friends have ever bought property. Who cares? Managed to get that. And that was the start of my property journey. And within 2 years, because of the way that the market had boomed in that time, I remortgaged it at £320,000 and repaid my parents and started my property journey. So that's kind of my origin story of how I got into it. And along the way, did my master's in surveying, and then I did my APC and became a chartered surveyor. And it was kind of just chucked in the deep end, sink or swim, learn these practices and get going.
I honestly, like, just hearing what you've been through in a very short period of time, like in the beginning, is enough to put anybody off. It just sounds so stressful, but obviously, which I am going to touch on, is that did come at some cost. And I think at the moment as well, maybe a lot of people might resonate with that. Obviously, you are a mental health ambassador, and Lionheart? You are an ambassador for them. Do you want to tell people, obviously, that situation had its consequences, how you realised that, what's changed, and how it's kind of got you to where you are now?
Yes. So a big consequence of all of that I was doing was burnout. There's no way that's sustainable. That lifestyle is a lot. Even thinking back on it, I've now managed to kind of twist the thought process around it from one of absolute negativity to one of, okay, that happened and this is what I've learned from it. So I was literally getting up 6 o'clock in the morning, getting to the gym, doing an hour in the gym, being at my desk by 8:30ish, working the whole day through to about 6:30, running home because I thought I needed to exercise twice a day, then doing my studying up until about 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. If it was an assignment time, I'd be up till midnight and I'd just go again. And I did that for 4 years. And that's not sustainable. So by the time I got around to taking my APC the first time round, which for people who don't know, it's your assessment of professional competence, and that is your final exam to become a chartered surveyor. I walked into the room, and also during this final year where I was about to take my APC, my parents had started their divorce process, and I was mediating on that. So I was separating out the assets. Chris and I, we just bought our first property together. Like, there was so much going on in my life, and I'd gone into my APC the first time round and got halfway through and couldn't do it anymore. I just sat there literally crying. It was like I was being attacked. I've never felt like that before. And after it was over, I was like, okay, well, got to go home now. Couldn't get home. I was on the phone to my dad. I was like, I don't know how to get home. He's like, where are you? I said, somewhere near Heathrow. Couldn't get home. Couldn't think about anything that was going on. And I obviously didn't pass. You find out 7 days later I hadn't passed, and I was angry. I was angry at myself. I was angry at the world. I was angry at everything that was going on, and I wasn't sleeping properly, and I wasn't doing this, and I failed everything that I'd done. I completely failed. And luckily the RICS noticed and put me in contact with Lionheart, who is the charity that supports surveyors and their families. And they said, Natasha, please get in contact with them. Like, every time we've seen you up until about the last 6 months, you've been so excited, so happy, so bubbly, and something has just completely knocked you off kilter. I found Lionheart in tears, not knowing what to expect, and told them what had been going on. I felt my ABC and this has happened. And they took me under their wing and gave me 6 months worth of counselling and helped me be kinder to myself, look after myself, so that I could go back into my APC the second time round and pass it. It wasn't that it was never that I wasn't a competent surveyor. It was that I'd completely burnt myself out through all of this stuff that I was doing. And that was kind of the life-changing moment, if you see, because I'd taken too much on. I wasn't doing anything efficiently, and I had to still do everything that was going on in my life. It's not like you could just give it up. I still had to do that and still continue being a surveyor and continue running my property portfolio and continue doing all of that, but I had to now do it on a more efficient way possible. So that was where the processes started coming in. And on the back of that, I said to them, well, it can't just be me in this situation. We're in a high pressured industry. You know, people aren't always that nice to you. You have to go and negotiate with people, and they can be pretty hard nosed, right?
Yes, definitely.
You come up. Okay, we've had this conversation where we've said we come up against people and we're like, are you kidding me right now? Could you not just
buy a house? Please let me buy one. I'm trying to give you money, not take it away.
I want to negotiate with you. I just want this to happen, and I want this to be easy. And you know, we come up against lenders, and you look at lenders sometimes. You're like, are you for real right now? Like, we've been through all of these hoops, and you still come up with something else. It's like, you get it, right? Daily.
You know, I'm just so fortunate. My husband deals with all of our mortgages, because literally, I think if I had to, I would have left the property game along. Like, when I first started, it's just not for me. It's very frustrating. It's so like antiquated. It's just not. It's his department, and it will stay there until it goes all online.
I wish. Chris does not want to get involved in mortgages whatsoever. He's like, no thanks, I'm not having that. But they're so bloody minded. I mean, one bridging lender got my completion statement wrong 4 times on exchange, so I had to pull out and lost a load of money, and then sued me because I pulled out. So I had to counter sue them.
Oh my gosh! I've not had that, touch wood. Hopefully we won't.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. I was so livid. But it's all of these things that come up on you on a daily basis. And it could be that you're dealing with someone on a bad day. It could be that you're dealing with somebody who doesn't respect what you're doing. It could be that you just come up against people who are just awful, right? That's the long and short of it. And it's also cutthroat. We do work a lot of hours. You know, as much as you can streamline stuff, if you're on the lookout for another property, or you're trying to figure out your strategy to growth, or you're trying to deal with tenants' lease renewals, or my gosh, all you commercial landlords or commercial property managers, when it's service charge time of the year and we're doing budgets and we're doing reconciliation statements and we're trying to get contractors quotes, my gosh, like, it's frustrating. Rent review negotiations. Against the brick wall sometimes, like, all of these things. It couldn't have just been me. And so I said to Lionheart, should we do something? Should we actually do something? Let's start a movement in the industry. Let's start educating people about mental health, because I am a naturally anxious person if I allow myself to be. It's been like that for over 20 years. I can remember it. It goes, and I just worry about things, but I can see when it's happening now, and I can get a hold on it. And Lionheart have really helped me with that as well. But there will be people who are in much worse situations than I am, or people who experience things differently. And so if we had a place where we could bring people together and we could talk about well-being, we could talk about mental health, that gives people a platform to know that it's okay. Just because you deal with something differently than someone else doesn't mean that you're incompetent. And sometimes that seems to come across, and especially in the surveying industry. I mean, it happens in the property industry as well. But sometimes you come across other surveyors and you think, why would you even treat me like that? Like, why? And it's just because we have different attitudes of coming across people. And it's the same in the investment industry as well. We have different attitudes, but it doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make anybody else wrong. It just means that we're different people. And so having this space where we could come together and we go through some tips, some tools, some techniques, the things that are working for me at the time, the things that aren't working for me at the time, the things that are working for other people, because well-being is a practice, it's a journey. We constantly have to work on it. It's not like you do it one day and you're like, feeling happy now, that's me for life. No. Doesn't happen like that. So that was where I started working for Lionheart, and we roll those. They started off as workshops, and when I was in the UK, they were always workshops, and there'd be hours, and I'd do Supercharge Your Wellbeing, which is my signature one. We would do boosting your resilience and supercharging your confidence as well. But now I just head up the Supercharge Your Wellbeing. We do them online, and I do them for students and young surveyors, older surveyors. And it's just a place to help. And it's something that we need to really focus on, because for everybody, no matter where you are, the industry can be tough. So it's
no, definitely. And I can completely resonate with where you're coming from. I have a life coach. I've been working with her now for probably 5 years. And I wouldn't have been able to get through the time I have if I hadn't have changed my mindset. But like you say, that first year I did it, literally had a session every week. She's based in Australia. She's amazing. We do Zoom or WhatsApp calls. Literally did it every week for 12 months. Obviously, there's a big cost to that, but I'm a completely different person. And even now, to this day, I still have to revisit them first sessions. I've got everything written down, spending time looking after myself, affirmation. I know not everyone can resonate with that. But for me, it really changed my life. And if I hadn't have done that, I probably would be on a completely different path now. So I'm completely with you on anything to do with mindset. It's really
important. My gosh, so important. I can't stress it enough. I'm the same with you. Always working with the coach. Just someone who just puts you back in line.
Yes.
Like,
get back.
Where are you going with that?
Maybe that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Well, for me, your energy is so infectious, and that's what drew me to you over social media. Obviously, you help others. You've got an amazing platform to do that. So will you share with people, obviously, you wanting to help people leverage the time a bit better, be systemized. Can you explain what it is you offer and how it can help people who are listening?
Yeah, so I ran a platform called the NC Real Estate Members Club, and that is my online community. It's a paid for community. Obviously, there's a free stuff out there. So just to start with, if you're getting to know me, there is a lot of the free stuff out there. My Property Investment Mastery Facebook group is always the first touch point, or Instagram, Natasha Collins. Like, those places are just really good for like a good overview of what I do. But inside the Members Club, I put all of the processes for both commercial and residential property that I have used and still use to this day. If anybody saw my Instagram feed yesterday, a picture of me sat on the terrace doing my end of year accounts and getting all my bookkeeping done. That's purely through the systems that I've created over the years to streamline everything. And what I do in the Members Club is I put that all together, and we do that in monthly packages. And my whole ethos is that all of the learning that you do should be in about 15 minutes with processes alongside it. And those processes either come in the form of a workbook, which makes you think, because obviously strategy is very much individual to your property, but it also gives you the processes that you go through to get to that point. For example, if we were to do a commercial investment valuation, what do we start with? Well, we start with what's the rental that's coming in. So how much rent are you getting? Is this at market value, or could you raise that to market value? So then we do the research around what market value is. We then look at lease terms. Well, you have to look at the lease terms from where you come from, but then you have to also start forecasting. Well, actually, what can we do going forward? So I give you the things that you need to look at, but also the things that are just rinse and repeat, where you get the information from so that you can complete your valuations. I do that with property management record systems. This month, we've got the property management record system package, which is where you literally click it 4 times, put it in your Google Drive, and you've got all the processes and everything for this property management record. Like, that's it. Like, simple things that create huge results, because my main driver for growth in property portfolios is strategy and how we can increase the rent and how we can increase the value of properties. It's not, I really hate this passive kind of investment strategy where you buy a property, you negotiate on it, you sit on it for 2 years, you remortgage out of it, you haven't done anything. Whereas I think to be a property investor, you have to be quite active.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how many properties you've got, because again, it's quality over quantity. If you can make your desired income from 3 properties rather than 25, go with the 3. I don't know why you wouldn't.
You can do that when you come back to London. In Sheffield, it's a different scenario.
Yeah, no, I get that. No, but my investment, because I've always got so much going on. For me personally, my investment strategy is the minimum amount of properties for the maximum amount of income. Right? That's I have to rely on that because I love the teaching side of things that I do. I never want to give that up because I love interacting with people. So right, that for me is my trade-off, right? So what I do within the members club is give you the stuff to work from, all of the processes, and then we have drop-in sessions on Zoom where we get together as a group, and then we have one-to-ones which are just 30 minutes each month, and I make sure that people are on track. And the reason that I did this was because I know from when I was building my portfolio in my early 20s how important it was to have experts around me. Now, I was lucky in the fact that I had estate managers, right, who owned millions of pounds of property and have been building that over the years. And I had estate managers for the NHS who would have a completely different viewpoint on it. And then I would have the solicitors for these portfolios as well, one of whom is still my solicitor to this day, because she will always say to me, all right, I get you on this, but I do not get you on that. I have no idea what you're doing. Oh, okay. So she's like, are you sure this makes sense? But the one thing that she never says to me is no. There's always a workaround. Between the pair of us, we can solve things. And we've been doing that for 10 years now, from when we worked. She was a solicitor, still is a solicitor for the NHS portfolio. We would always come up with a solution. And it didn't necessarily need to look like perfect solution, but we'd agree things, we'd think about it, and we'd go, all right, we'll give it a shot.
But having a great team around you is so important.
So, and that's where the members club comes in, because I wanted to be that team member for other people. If you need that support, and I've always had this ethos with my clients, I will walk to the end of the world for you. What do you need me to go into battle for? I'm going to make sure that you get the best out of it without screwing anybody else over. That's got to be how we work in the property industry. I'm not out for blood. I'm out to make sure that you get the best possible results, but that everybody in the deal is happy. And that's where the passion comes from. There's always a solution. The strategy may not look like what you wanted it to look like at the start. Who cares? If we get to the end result and everybody gets what they need, gets what they want, my gosh, we have done what we set out to do, right? You know that.
Yeah, but it's all about your team. It's all about the tools you've got in your toolbox. If you don't have them tools, then someone else in your team has got them. And I think that's why what you're doing is really valuable to other people. And especially that monthly accountability, checking up, are you okay? Have you got any issues? Which I'm sure a lot of people do at this time, if we're honest.
Yeah. And I'm going to put it out there that we currently don't have many properties within my clients in the members club who's vacant, and if they are vacant, it's for a reason. Okay? It's for a very tactical reason. It's because we've focused on really what can we do to help our tenants during this time? What can we do to help the industry during this time? It's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. It's wild out there. We've never I can't tell you when this is going to end, but you can only deal with what you know in the kind of remit that we're in right now. And if people, I'm very good at checking with people. I mean, there's a couple of members out there who will know. I remember what's in their leases as well. Got the memory of an elephant.
There's no escaping.
There's no escaping. I remember. So that's the service that I offer. It's great because we get strategic and members feed off each other's ideas and inspiration. It's not a competitive environment. It's okay, well, I've been here, or I've been doing this, or I've been doing all of these different things, and it's kind of inspiring for each other, which I love it. Honestly, it's like it's a passion of mine. I love it.
You can honestly, like, just by you talking about it, you can see, you really can. It's so nice to see. It's so infectious. We're going to put all the details in the podcast, in the show notes, where everyone can contact you if they want to get involved with the members club, how they can kind of start that process, because it's not just anyone can walk in the door. There is a bit of a process to it, so we'll pop all the details in there.
Yeah,
obviously we need to talk about COVID-19. I know you've got a great document that you've got that's been updated really regular, so we'll pop the link in as well for people to get in contact with that. What have you changed in your business, if anything? Because obviously you are more or less, everything is online for you. How has it affected you, or going forward, do you see any opportunities? What does it look like to you?
So I had to make changes in regards to my service accommodation. I have one service accommodation, and obviously about start of March, everybody started cancelling, and I was like, oh Jesus, I just done a refurb on this service accommodation. And it was beautiful. I'd put in the bathroom of my dreams, and it was do it. So don't get me wrong. This wasn't just me spending money for the sake of spending money. This was on my maintenance cycle. I was going to do it anyway, but I was really hoping that this year was going to be the year that I could put my prices up. Well, obviously that didn't happen. So I kind of, that was a real kind of like, okay, what do I do now? So I figured, well, I can't be the only one with this issue, but I've now got to start experimenting. So I listed it just on Open Rent. I put it on Spare Room, put it on Gumtree, just to see if anybody would want it. And I just said, look, I'm not there right now. If you want this property, you're going to have to book it through Airbnb. Yeah. I mean, I can't do anything else. I do have a managing agent down there, but at the same time, I was being a bit stingy and was like, can I do this myself? Like, the cleaners have been in there. They've completely cleaned it out. It's got all bedding. It's literally turnkey. No one has to bring anything with them apart from the suitcase of clothes. Fine. Then what happened was a couple got in contact with me and said, hey, my daughter is stuck in the UK. Can she rent it for a month until we can get her home? So that was great. So that was a month-long booking. Fantastic. Got that. Then I had these Chinese students, 3 Chinese girls got in contact with me and said, Natasha, seen your advert on Spare Room, would really like to book your place for the rest of the summer. Can we do that through Airbnb? Yes, but that was the week that the government stopped accepting bookings on Airbnb. Mm. So I had to phone Airbnb and be like, look, can you just overrule this, please? These, and they were like, no, we can't because of your government. I was like, these students are going to have nowhere to live. Just made it into this massive drama. But they didn't have anywhere to live. The University of Bath didn't really have any accommodation for them. They were cramped in close quarters. This property was going to be empty. That was the only way I was going to be able to do it. And luckily, Airbnb allowed that to happen. So
that's really good.
Got them in till July. We'll see what happens in July. You can't worry about something until something happens. Like, I can't. So I've got no mortgage holidays. I'm still lucky enough to be able to pay for everything. And that's been a real positive thing. What do I think is going to change? I think anybody who's selling their property right now is probably doing it out of desperation. So there may be deals to be had, but be careful. Mortgage lenders saying really strange things at the moment. I know a lot of I've never heard of like most of the stuff that they're coming out with right now. I know some of my members, they send me through things. I look at it and I'm like, "Ooh, it's getting a bit weird." Like debating where funds have come from deposits and things. Some mortgage lenders are doing really well, though. Anybody who's getting mortgages, I think, from the Mortgage Works right now, seem to still be shifting things.
I think we got one through that, actually, a recent one.
Yeah, I just renegotiated a mortgage for my mum for the Mortgage Works, which went through 23rd of April. They halved the interest rate, and they gave her £10,000 based upon some valuation that they went out and did of this property. Fantastic. Great. Thank you very much. Glad that went through. So some lenders are lending, some lenders aren't lending. The more specialist lenders are really struggling right now. And I think we'll continue to see that. Commercial lenders have pulled in their loan to values. So some of them have, some of them haven't. Their interest rates have gone up. Obviously, the reason for that is because commercial tenants aren't paying as much as they were. It's all like fine. You know, we can.
I mean, we're really lucky. We're really lucky. I mean, we've got a new build project which is completely funded by investor private finance. We nearly went down the development finance route, but we didn't because this investor came in at the last minute. Otherwise, that would be completely different. And we've got 2 commercial, but it's an unencumbered property. So, touch wood, we've just been super lucky.
How's your commercial tenants doing? What type of tenants are they?
So one is a carpet company, so a flooring company. Obviously, he can't work at the moment, really. His wife just had a baby, so he can't really go into other people's properties, and he can't anyway, really, unless it's a vacant buy-to-let or that type of investment. He does all of our properties, and at the minute he just won't come and do them in case he takes anything home, which is fair enough. But he's paid his rent for the last 2 months. Everyone just paid, what we're on now, the 4th. Most of them paid on the 1st. Got 2 that pay on the 5th. Everyone's paid. The other one is like an American sweet shop where he's due on the 5th, so we shall see. But he has said, look, if I can't pay, I'll pay as much as I can, and then we'll just work it out after. So
you can't argue with that, can you?
No, we've just been in contact with his tenants, and at this time, communication has got to be number one. Because if you don't speak to them, they'll go off the radar. You'll just not hear from them, and that's not what we didn't want. That we didn't want them to think we weren't approachable. So that's what we've done anyway.
That's such a good point, isn't it? And some tenants as well, commercial tenants, don't realise how much support and help is out there for them. You know,
oh God, our carpet fitter literally has got all sorts of different loans, and we were like, please don't ever turn around and say you can't afford to pay your rent after what you've just told us.
No. Exactly. Yeah. In fact, pay it all up front. We'll have it.
The rest of the year.
We'll take that. Thanks.
Free carpet fitting for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, he's been there quite a while. He's a really good tenant, so we're lucky.
So I think as well, once we get out of this, probably September time, I'm going to go and look for commercial units again. In fact, I've been looking at commercial auctions, and there's some really interesting deals out there. There's a lot of sale and leasebacks going on, which means that commercial tenants or commercial operators who would usually have owned their own properties to raise cash are selling the properties on these great leases that they are staying in the properties for. Probably not as high rent as you'd expect to get, but it's definitely worth a look for me. I don't have any investors actually who would lend money for the mortgage for the auction this week, but definitely I've had my investors get in contact with me. My business partner back in the UK and text me, Natasha, we've got money lined up for the end of August. What are we buying? I'm thinking, ooh. So people people still want to get involved in deals. And I think whatever commercial tenants get through this, so they survive, great tenants, I would happily have them in my portfolio. People are still going to need to be renting property. We still see that people are renting property because I know that tenants are moving in and out. There's lots of demand, not lots of demand, right? If you say that people need to move, if you say that you're going to have your property on the market for 30 days regularly and you budget for that, well, maybe now it might take 90 days to 2 months, not 90 days, no, 45 days to 2 months-ish. So you just budget for that extra void period. Things are moving slower, but that's because there's not as many market players out there. So I think we'll see a dip in the market, but hopefully by the end of the year, we should have flattened back out. I know I see some very doomsday posts out there.
Oh gosh, I'll be honest with you, I've completely switched off to a lot of it. I just don't need that negativity in my life. We all know what's going on. We all are affected. Everyone's going to be affected by it in some shape or form. But I've kind of battened down the hatches.
Well, it goes back to the saying, doesn't it? What can you control? If you have an empty property and you're thinking to yourself, well, I've seen all of these posts, like landlords are really struggling and tenants can't move in and out and this, that and the other. You start thinking to yourself, well, it's not possible to let it. I'm going to start having to fold because of X, Y, and Z. But then if you take a step back, shut that off, as you said, and start thinking, well, what can I do? Well, I can still list my property. Fantastic. I list my property in as many places as possible. That gives me more of a fighting chance for people to come and take it on. We just got to do the things that we can control.
Last Thursday, I advertised one of our properties, one of the properties that we have, and Thursday, it didn't even go onto Rightmove. Saturday, I sent all the videos, all the images. They said, look, we really want it, but we just need to physically come and check it out. So I said, look, I could open the door. You've got PPE. I was in the car I didn't show them around. Obviously, we followed up on the phone after. And they've taken it. The references have just come back today, and they're like, "Can we move in at the weekend?"
Yeah, perfect.
So people still want to move. Obviously, it is necessary for them to move. But I got an absolute barrage of abuse for doing that, and I did a video just to show that obviously people still want to people want to move. Obviously, it's got to be essential, and got an absolute barrage of it from other letting agents, and they were all letting agents. So I don't know. I feel in this time we should always support each other, but maybe in some areas in property that's not the case. Let me word that right. But it is what it is.
If you're not putting yourself in any danger, you're not spreading the virus. There you go. You have to. You can't just give up. My gosh, the minute you give up, everything falls down.
Exactly. But so going end of this year, what's the plans? What are you looking forward to? What have you got in your pipeline?
Oh, I have got so many ideas. So what are we doing? April was kind of, for me, it was just a month going back to coaching, and I hired a couple of new team members at NC Real Estate. So we've been doing onboarding. That's been phenomenal. I've been learning so much about onboarding new team members and what have you. What are we doing? Well, this month we're launching the Members Club again. So the doors are opening. That is from the 18th to the 21st of May. We've got a whole launch sequence going to get very exciting over the next couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. Then we kind of, during the summer, I had loads of live events planned this year, and I do live events in the UK and not been able to do that. So I'm hoping that come around September time, I'll be able to start getting those back in the diary again. I've got my commercial property mastermind opening up again at the end of the year. I've got some smaller packaged products that will be coming out at the end of the summer. And then hopefully as of September, back to investing. Oh, and we've got development. Oh, I was just thinking, I've got a development over in Jersey, which would be selling at the end of the summer. It's exciting. That would be my first flip.
Oh, wow. So super busy.
Well, yes, but it's organised. So, like,
it's systemised and outsourced.
Systemised, outsourced. Things are, look, again, all I can do is what I can control. The outcome is whatever the outcome will be, but we just try and plan things out throughout the year to keep busy and keep everything going. And that's what I enjoy doing. We've got I've always got things going on, but I enjoy it that way. Hopefully when things open I can book a holiday or something,
Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been great speaking to you. You've got so much knowledge and experience, and really your energy is so infectious. So everyone who's watching, I'll pop Natasha's details in the Facebook pages and on the podcast. All the details will be in the show notes. Make sure you connect with her on social media, so I'll put all the links in there. And yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Laura. It's been fabulous.